inspired many more.
He was to billiards what Dhyan Chand was to hockey. Just like the hockey wizard, he too could make the ball follow his command. Wilson Jones was a pioneer for Indian cue sports, and these pictures are an abiding memory of his most outstanding achievement. In 1958, 36-year-old Jones beat Englishman Leslie Dreffield by 123 points in the World Billiards Championship in Calcutta. He was the first Indian to be a world champion ever in any sport.
I was on the scoreboard with the markers those days, and the spontaneous ovation that was coming from the gallery and from the public, the whole hall was absolutely chock-a-block.
Jones could not defend his title 2 years later in England, finishing third. But in 1964, he was world champion once again, winning all his matches down under.
Wilson Jones was my inspiration. He was a wonderful role model, and I followed whatever he did in Bombay. There are lots of tournaments in Bombay, and I used to go to every tournament where he played.
Jones also won 12 national billiards titles and 5 snooker titles. After retiring, he made his mark as a successful coach. But he will always be remembered as the father of Indian cue sports. He passed away in 2003.
Raj is still with us in the studio. Raj, he was a pioneer, wasn't he?
Of course, first world champion for India. I think something that we should all be proud of. Later on went on to become a fine coach and got the Dronacharya even. I think we all lucky to even have seen someone like Wilson Jones around. At the same time, we also had a wonderful shooter, Maharaja Karni Singh of Bikaner, who won a silver in the World Championship in 1962 in Cairo. And then the hockey team, of course, started poorly in 1960, went on to win both the Olympic Games in 64 and the Asian Games in 66. I think that was a fantastic era for Indian sport. Then of course we've ignored cricket completely, but I would remember the 60s essentially for the coming of age of Mansoor Ali Khan Patowdy as the captain of the Indian team.
Mansoor Ali Khan Patowdy and also Jasu Patel, that win against Australia.
Of course,
well, Raj, thanks a lot for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you.
And that's all for us, from us here on the show. Time for us to go, but see you next week.
As part of our celebration of 60 years of Indian sports, we are asking you, the viewer, to tell us who you think is the greatest Indian sportsperson post-independence. Log on to ibnlive.com or SMS us at 2622 to vote for your choice. On the next edition of Sports 360, relive the glory days of India's back-to-back series wins against West Indies and England. Meet a suave tennis legend and catch Indian hockey once again recapturing the glory days. The 60s and the 70s. A time for Indian sports to leave their footprint in the international arena. The hockey team capped off a consistent run with a World Cup title. The Nawab of Patowdy Jr. and Ajit Wadekar exploded the myth of overseas wins. Vijay Amritraj and his teammates smashed their way to success on the tennis court. And Indian athletics kept up a glorious tradition.
Hello and welcome once again to Sports 360, the show in which we are going back in time and looking at the defining movements of Indian sports in the last 60 years. I'm Digvijay Singhdeo, and on this show, we go back to the third decade after independence. Now, on the last show, we had an Olympic finalist. Today, we are privileged to have with us an Olympic gold medalist. Maharaj Kishan Kaushik, gold medalist in the Moscow Olympics and also a very successful coach of the men's and women's hockey team. Mr. Kaushik, thanks a lot for joining us. It's a privilege.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now Indian hockey has seen many highs, but by the time we entered the 70s, the spell was beginning to wear off. India had to be content with bronze at 2 Olympics. However, no one took them lightly and Indian hockey bounced back with a vengeance. Ajit Pal Singh led India to its first and only World Cup title in 1975.
6 consecutive Olympic gold medals, another one in 1964, and then the slide started for Indian hockey. Bronze in the 68 and 72 Olympics, and also in the inaugural 1971 World Cup. Then there was a brief resurgence. India reached the World Cup final in 1973, but lost on penalties to Holland. But in 1975, a tough, battle-hardened team arrived in Kuala Lumpur.
I entered into the hotel where we were staying. So I saw the same World Cup which we had missed in 1973, and I took the oath there that I will try my level best to get this World Cup for India.
India reached the final after surviving some close encounters. Up against them were old rivals Pakistan, and within 10 minutes Pakistan were ahead. Inside Raid Zahid scoring a field goal.
I still remember the face of Ajit Pal. We cannot win against Pakistan, sort of. It happens. So I went and shouted perhaps. I said, we have plenty of time to win. Don't lose your, and play, we'll win it.
Fullback Surjit Singh equalized off a penalty corner for India in the 25th minute, settling the nerves. And then watch this brilliant run by Ashok Kumar off a BP Govinda pass. It split the Pakistan defence and resulted in a corner. Captain Ajit Pal Singh stopped the ball. There was a striking circle melee and Ashok scored.
He just gave the pass to me, and ball was coming. I didn't stop the ball. On the coming ball, I just swept the ball. So it hit the triangle side of the board, and after hitting the ball very quickly, very fast, it came out again.
The Indians managed to hang on to that lead for the remaining 12 minutes, and then it was time for celebration, which was certainly not low-key.
A last glorious moment there for Indian hockey. Mr. Kaushik, India have never reached the semi-finals ever again in the World Cup or even beyond. That puts this team's achievements in a much larger perspective.
Exactly, rightly said, and I think we never prepared for such big competitions when the hockey was shifted to synthetic hockey pitch. If you look at our decline started when the artificial pitch was introduced. And in 76, we had ground in Patiala, which was made of gobar, cow dung, and the money spent was 80,000 on that pitch, and we practiced on that pitch. The speed was, we were told, like the synthetic pitch, and unfortunately, nobody knew what the reaction of the pitch is.
This team really was very battle-hardened. They had practiced a lot, and there was when they lost that final in 1973 to Holland on penalties, the team got together, they were crying, and they had all made themselves a promise that whatever happens, they're going to go out there and get this cup back. So that showed that mentally this team was very strong.
That team was very good. If you look at the team we had in 73, and Mr. Jagmohan was the physical trainer, and I'll tell you, the 40 boys who were in the camp were given very hard physical fitness training. And the boys even could not walk properly, they could not go to toilet properly, the amount of work what they did. And I think the best team we had in that time was the 73 team, which was led by MP Ganesh, and we were leading by 2 goals against Netherlands, and we lost in tiebreaker and missed 2 strokes in that, including that stroke in tiebreaker. I think that was the best thing we had in that time. And 75, which we won, was compared to 73 team, was slightly weaker than the 73, although we won that, you know.
It is a very interesting anecdote we heard from Ashok Kumar. He was like that, wasn't he? He was very aggressive, and that the team had some really good players, like Ajit Pal Singh was there, you had Ashok Kumar.
Majority players were the same, you know, but the 75 team which you won, majority players were the same continuing, and they had the fighting spirit. They wanted to win the World Cup, which they really deserved to win in 73, but they lost, unfortunately, and 75 they made it.
You were there in those camps and all with them. What was the team spirit when the team was finally chosen, when they went there? What was the mood like when they went?
See, in fact, the camp was held at Chandigarh, and the atmosphere was really very good during that time, and a lot of people used to come and watch, and especially Punjabis from Chandigarh. They were the main motivators to the team, and boys were just playing hockey most of the time, and morning and evening they used to play. And Buddhi Sahab and Balbir Sahab was very particular that the combined team should play, and I think the atmosphere was made very positive, and the team was like one unit. That's very important, I think, and Ajit Pal was a good leader. He was mixing up with everybody, and so Jeet was in top form, and Ashok Kumar, of course, Govinda, Phillips, and they were in top forms. So I think that form paid and the team spirit paid the dividend, and they won the World Cup.
Well, we did see those scenes of celebration there when India won the World Cup. That's the first time India won the World Cup, and unfortunately, it's the last time India has won that World Cup. Let's move on today. Indian tennis is searching desperately for a successor to the legacy of Leander Paes and Mahesh Bhupathi. 40 years ago, a similar story unfolded. The era of Krishnan, Jaideep Mukherjee and Premjit Lal was coming to an end. But one man stepped up to carry the torch forward. Vijay Amritraj was Indian tennis.
I'm Vijay.
The name, Vijay Amritraj.
Sportsman, polo, cricket, tennis. I play a bit myself.
This scene from the Bond movie Octopussy was an indicator of the persona of the man. Suave, extremely talented, and one of India's original sports superstars. Amritraj followed in the tradition of Krishnan and company. In 1973, he reached the quarterfinals of Wimbledon, losing to eventual champion Jan Kodis. In the US Open that year, he beat the great Rod Laver, but lost again to eventual champion Ken Rosewall.
Vijay was great talent, but you know, he lost all those long matches, 5-set matches, Wimbledon or US Open or big matches, not because of anything else, because of, you know, he was asthma patient. He was very cold, but he was a great player and a great gentleman.
But like most Indian tennis legends, it was Davis Cup which took him to world fame. In 1974, India beat Australia and the Soviet Union on their way to the Davis Cup final. Vijay spearheading the effort along with brother Anand Amritraj and Jasjit Singh. But then India didn't play the final against apartheid South Africa, the only default title win in Davis Cup history.
To be very honest, we all more or less cried. Vijay nearly cried. You know, we were all, you know, we felt. But then what happened? You had to sacrifice your country. For your country, you had to sacrifice, and we did that.
It took India 13 more years to reach the Davis Cup final. But Amritraj was a constant threat on the circuit. The Amritraj brothers even reached the semi-finals of Wimbledon doubles in 1976.
Well, Vijay Amritraj, a legend there. We still have Mr. Kaushik with us. Mr. Kaushik, when you started playing hockey, that was around 72, 73. Vijay Amritraj was making waves at that time. What was the perception about Vijay Amritraj among you, his fellow sportspersons?
So we always used to watch tennis, and that was like we always used to feel the tennis means Vijay Amritraj, and Vijay Amritraj represents tennis. And tennis, I think, the picked up from that period. His performance and the telecast and the popularity among hockey players and the sports lovers, I think, started from that period.
Right, Vijay Amritraj followed in the footsteps of legends like Ramanathan Krishnan. Mr. Kaushik, thanks a lot for joining us and sharing those wonderful memories with us.
Thank you.
It's time for us to head into a break. When we come back, we are looking at the coming of age of Indian cricket. Welcome back. Now, for decades, Indian cricket had been struggling to find an identity. It was but natural to expect an Indian team to struggle abroad. But behind the scenes, things were changing. An aggressive captain was instilling newfound confidence in his team. And the team responded in style. Mansoor Ali Khan Pataudi and later Ajit Wadekar gave the opposition something to think about with some memorable wins.
The Nawab of Pataudi Jr. was a man who brought a modern outlook to the Indian game. He wasn't afraid of taking risks, backed his instinct and his spinning talent in unhelpful conditions overseas. It was under his captaincy that India won its first series win abroad, a 3-1 demolition of New Zealand in the spring of 1968.
Actually, the expectations from the people back home, because cricket is, as you know, is very, very popular game. And therefore, every match they wanted us to win against everybody.
3 years later, these images captured a whole new era. Ajit Wadekar was the hero after leading India to a first ever series win against West Indies. Dilip Sardesai scored 642 runs. A young Sunil Gavaskar made 774 runs in his debut series. Bedi, Venkat and Chandrasekhar bowled their hearts out as India won that series 1-0.
It was fabulous. I think the whole airport was filled with the people. They made us stand on the table and make speech.
A couple of months later, Wadekar's men proved it was no fluke. These pictures of Abid Ali being carried on his shoulders after scoring the winning runs at the Oval are enshrined in Indian cricket history. India beat England 1-0 on their home turf. The whipping boys of world cricket had finally come of age.
And we're now joined from Bangalore by another legend, veteran cricket writer Rajan Bala, who's the consulting editor of the Asian Age. Mr. Bala, thanks a lot for joining us. Tiger Pataudi, he was a pioneer, wasn't he, Mr. Bala? And what was his role in the initial years when he was building that team up?
Well, Tiger Pataudi, frankly, did not expect to become India's captain when he did. And I have the great story from Polly Umbriga and the late Manjrekar, both of them are no more.
Right.
When Pataudi became captain of the West Indies, he walked up to the two of them and he says, I know very little. You are the senior ones, you better help me. Immediately, the two senior ones, Umbriga and Manjrekar, realized that this boy was extremely modest and willing to learn, and they supported him wholeheartedly. I think Tiger spent a lot of time talking to the senior people,
right,
and then gradually he understood what the needs of Indian cricket were.
Would you say that that win in New Zealand, that was the coming of age? Would you say that was a breakthrough tour for India?
Yes, it was. It was the first ever tour to New Zealand. Nobody knew anything about those conditions. And Tiger always said that he wished the whole tour had been the other way around. That is, they went to New Zealand first and then came to Australia. In Australia, of course, they lost all the 4 test matches.
Right.
But maybe if they had the Anzac part of it, if they'd understood what really is the fitness, the enthusiasm, and etc., probably Tiger's men would have been better prepared for the Australian series had it come later.
Mr. Bala, let's move ahead now. 1971, those twin tours. When you were covering the team, when you knew a lot of members of that team, did you get that? Did you get that sense that they had this belief that they could actually go and win? I mean, West Indies was uncharted territory; they never won there, same in England.
Well, I don't think it's true, because from '68, when we beat New Zealand, and thereafter when Australia came back to India in 1969-70, frankly, the series should have been squared 2-2, because in the final test at Madras, now Chennai, we had a great opportunity to win, and if the series had been squared 2-2, who knows what could have happened.
Right.
And then the point is, and then when we beat the West Indies, don't forget the West Indies bowling was very limited at that time.
Right.
But still, hats off to the late Dilip Sardesai and of course Sunil Gavaskar, that they realized that this bowling could be punished. And it was one of those ironies that 2 other cricketers of great experience, Salim Durrani and ML Jayasinghe, they failed on that tour. And both never went to England after that.
Right.
So the point is, I think Ajit Wadekar himself didn't have a very great tour, but Ajit was probably one of the most sensible captains in cricket, because he would just wait to seize the opportunity.
Well, he was a sensible captain, you said it, Mr. Bala, and he did lead those 2 tours, and that reception which they got in the Bombay airport, well, we still look at those pictures and remember that team. Thanks a lot for joining us from Bangalore, Mr. Bala. Time for us to slip into another break, and when we come back, we look at Indian athletics.